Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Barry, what happened on election night in the legislature?
It was a historic night in North Carolina. It's been over a century since Reconstruction, since Republicans have had both chambers of the General Assembly. And they won resounding victories, particularly in the Senate, but they also got a pretty good majority in the House.
We saw Republicans take Democratic seats in North Carolina in the Senate and the House. Did a Democrat turn out a Republican at all?
No.
In the Senate, the leadership won. Marc Basnight wins re-election. Mark Nesbitt is re-elected. Right. Phil Berger, the Republican, will be the president of the Senate, presumptively pro tem. But let's start over in the East. Lewis Pate, Don Davis. Lewis Pate couldn't bring it through 2 years ago.
Right.
He wins this year.
Lewis Pate, former state representative, had a fairly close race a couple years ago, and Don Davis won it then, obviously. The tide was just with Lewis Pate.
District 8 was the R.C. Souls seat. Rabin versus Redwine. Rabin wins.
That really didn't surprise me that he won. What surprised me was that he trounced Redwine. Redwine is a former state House member. He got redistricted out 10 years ago. He was also a former chairman of the House Appropriations Committee.
Current Senator Julia Bozeman's seat, District 9, will go Republican. Tom Goolsbee defeats Jim Lutzy, the former UNC-TV chancellor.
Right.
Part of the wave, or is that a conservative district, even though Bozeman was a Democrat?
Bozeman was a Democrat. That's also the district that former Senator Patrick Ballantyne held, who you may remember was the Republican nominee for governor in 2004. That's a swing district. In
District 10, the DA, Dewey Hudson, for that area,
former
Sampson,
DA,
former DA, was defeated by Brent Jackson, a Republican.
That was barely on anybody's radar screen. And when it came in last night that Jackson won that one, I'm thinking, okay, this is a big night for Republicans.
District 11, A.B. Swindell
versus
versus Buck Newton.
Right, against Buck Newton. That one was one of the uglier races in the state, and
from the ads,
from the ads related to some situations, apparently mistaken identities from when Mr. Newton was in college. That one wasn't really a surprise. Polling had indicated that Newton was ahead in that race.
In District 19, Senator Margaret Dixon had left the House to assume former Senator Tony Rand's seat. This was her chance to be elected to that position. She comes up short against Republican Wesley Meredith.
Very tight race. I guess there may be a potential for recount on that one. But yeah, that was very hotly contested. Again, that one kind of got ugly in the ad wars.
District 24, Tony Forrest versus Rick Gunn, the Republican. Rick Gunn will be the new senator.
That's right.
From that area.
One of the more expensive races, if not the most expensive race. I think the two candidates together probably spent around $1 million, and that doesn't include the outside groups.
Why would that race be so expensive? There's higher profile names on the ballot.
Higher profile names on the ballot, but these are races that is so competitive. Republicans knew that they could win that one. They knew they had to win that one. They threw a lot of money into it, and Democrats spent a lot of money trying to protect and play defense in that race, and Rick Gunn won out.
In District 28, over in Guilford County, Gladys Robinson wins that race over the unaffiliated Bruce Davis and the Republican Trudy Wade.
Senator Dorsett was going to run for re-election, and on the very last day decided to withdraw. Gladys Robinson was the only Democrat remaining, apparently, in that race. Mr. Davis, who was, I believe, a city council member, or either city council, I believe he's a city council member or county commissioner, fairly well-known elected official there.
Trudy Wade, Republican.
Republican Trudy Wade actually finished second in that race. She didn't get blown out. She probably would have. This is a safe Democratic seat. That made this actually close for the Republican. Not real close, but it made it one to watch.
In District 43, Senator David Hoyle has moved on. It was Kathy Harrington, the Republican, versus Jim Long, the Democrat. No relation to Jim Long, the former insurance commissioner. Senator Hoyle was a Democrat. He kept his seat. Kathy Harrington, the Republican, picks this seat up easily on election day.
Right. Kathy Harrington ran against Hoyle 2 years ago. The original Democratic candidate in that race was Annette Carter, and she dropped out for health reasons. This was going to be a favored Republican. This is a leaning Republican district anyway.
There's District 45, Goss, Soucek, Republican flip.
Right.
Joe Sam Queen loses re-election to Ralph Hise, a Republican, and the judge, John Snow, in a very close race with Jim Davis. What happened in the mountains that made it go red this time as opposed to the Democrats?
Those were all seats that are traditionally like to go Republican or are swing districts. And this is a Republican-tied year, and Republicans came out in force in those. Close races, most of them were fairly close, and this time it was a Republican edge.
Over in the House, as you say, no Democrats took any Republican seats, so it'll be a discussion of takeovers, Republicans taking Democrat seats. District 41, Chris Haggerty.
Right.
Northeast Wake County, that area versus Tom Murray. Was this a toss-up going into this?
This was a toss-up going into this, going into the Tuesday election. Chris Haggerty was actually appointed to that seat. This was his first effort at seeking election on his own right, and again, it was a tight race. That one was pretty heated too. There were a lot of mailers, a lot of ads in that one.
Two Cumberland County area districts, 44 and 45 in the State House. Parfit Rick Glazier is in a very tight race, maybe dozens of votes may keep him on top. What happened down in Cumberland County? Is it just, as you say, the wave, or is it an influx of people moving in or changing the complexion of the electorate down there?
Diane Parfit was just appointed. Margaret Dixon, who just lost the Senate, or looks like narrowly lost the Senate race, that was her seat that Parfit took. Glazier, he's been around for a while, leader in the House, and those are just some really tight races. Of course, Jackie Warner, it's not like she's unknown. I think she's a public school principal. Her husband, Alex Warner, is a former House member.
Let's talk about veteran Democrats in the House who were ousted last night. Representative Doug Young.
He will be totally off my radar.
He'll be replaced by Gadsden Pridgett. Was that because you thought he would win easy re-election? Was it because it's hard to track an election in a rural county?
It is hard, but that was a pretty solid Democratic-leaning district. I had heard no one mention that this one was even close.
Heading up the highway, Joe Hackney, the current House Speaker, District 54. Easy win. All the leadership of both parties won re-election, with the exception of Hugh Holloman.
Hugh Holloman lost, and Rayne Brown, a rematch from 2 years ago. Holloman outspent her 2 years ago by a big margin. This year, there was a lot more parity. Republicans had about the same amount of money to spend as the Democrats did, and then there were outside groups that spent a lot of money. The Republicans were better able to get out their message, and this is probably a theme throughout all the legislative races. Republicans had more money to spend, were able to get their message out. Outside groups came in, and although they're not supposed to coordinate with the party, and the candidates say they didn't, the ones I've talked to, the outside groups definitely, helped get that message out.
Representative Nelson Cullen, District 65, big on transportation issues. He's a conservative Democrat.
Business Democrat.
He'll be returned home. Business Democrat. He's coming home in favor of Burt Jones, an unaffiliated candidate, with the assumption that incoming Representative Jones will caucus with the Republicans. Or do you not know?
I don't know. It seems like I remember reading on his blog, he just thought, hey, I'm going to be more nonpartisan. So we're going to have to see how that's going to play out when it comes to caucusing.
District 93, Cully Tarleton, the incumbent representative Democrat, defeated by Jonathan Jordan, the Republican. In District 116, Jane Wilden, the incumbent Democratic representative, defeated by Tim Moffitt, the Republican. In that race,
2 or 4 years ago, there was a big congressional race out there, which is when Heath Shuler first got elected. And there were some Republicans who were out in that area that got turned out. And part of those is the people who are going out to vote for Heath Shuler would likely, down the ballot, vote for Democrats. Well, you don't have that wave now. I mean, Heath Shuler got reelected. There was some excitement in that, but they weren't voting straight Democratic Party down the line.
It's Barry Smith with M2Mpolitics.com, running down the state House and Senate races. Thank you so much, Barry, for being on the show tonight.
Thank you.